No spin, no bias, no censorship. I'm Dan Wootton. This is Outspoken Live episode number 274 and breaking right now. Essex fights back against a police cover-up over transporting hard-left Antifa thugs to the Bell Hotel in Epping as ordinary grandmothers, mums and daughters express emotion and fury at the far-right label that the MSM and establishment politicians are dishonestly pushing on them.
Epping is a wonderful place. The families of the children that attend Epping School are wonderful. And we're here to support the family and we're here to support our town. What's happening, how we're being portrayed is not correct. And we're here to make a difference. A strong message from strong women.
Legal migrants for probably 5 years. They moved out and then they came back once they set fire to the hotel they didn't like in Northfield. Since that day, we have been inundated with crime. Our children are not safe. Our children are scared to walk around. And we've just had enough.
We're all local people. We're all good, local, tax-paying people. We don't want trouble. We don't want fights. My question would be, why, and all due respect to the police, why are you allowing agitators to come and fight against us?
Now, the MSM coverage has been as irresponsible as you can imagine.
Far-right activists, I don't care what anyone says, this is far-right. They claim to care about women and children. What they did yesterday was trying to do damage limitation. It's the mums and the children.
Well, they said it was picnicking. Yes. Was all it was.
But in my digest next, as Nigel Farage speaks out and Tommy Robinson backs away from his pledge to be in Essex on Sunday, have we reached a tipping point where ordinary Brits, terrified of their children being sexually assaulted by illegal migrants, are being taken seriously? Then, the Superstar panel weigh in independent journalist Lewis Brackpool and author of That's What She Said on Substack, Alex Phillips. Also coming up on the show today, Katie Hopkins refuses to be cancelled as she's locked out of a council venue in Rugby by officials and the police despite a sold-out show. We'll show you what happened. Tommy Robinson backs Restore Britain and Advance UK as the Zia Yusuf Reform UK backlash grows. And LBC's Ian Dale sparks furious responses after dismissing a woman concerned about the Afghan cover-up scandal as a dinosaur. That one really will make you mad. Then, in the uncancelled after show on Substack, veteran royal authors Tom Bower and Robert Jobson reveal what's really going on with the Prince Harry and Meghan Markle attempted reconciliation with the King. You can sign up to watch on Substack, www.outspoken.live. At the end of the show, we'll also reveal the first Greatest Britain and Union Jackass of the week. The Union Jackass you can vote for right now in the live chat on YouTube. Here are today's nominees. Kate Nash, nominated by Matt Cass48 for performing at Brighton and rejoicing in her need for men to take over her spaces as she feels welcome and safe with men invading. The worst sort of woman she is. She said, by the way, that the loudest feminist voice in the UK, clearly meaning J.K. Rowling, is transphobic. Ian Dale, nominated by Darren Donaldson, for patronising a woman who voiced very valid concerns of the Afghan migrants being welcomed into the country via a cover-up. And Daniel Perry, nominated by Karen Hankey. Now, this is the £48,000 a year private school-educated moron who describes himself as a queer dance artist who unfurled a Palestine flag at that opera production at the weekend. So get voting, get commenting, and I'm going to bring you the results and the best and the worst of what you have to say at the end of today's show. So do stay with us. But now, let's go. The Essex fight back is on. And despite their best attempts, the mainstream media and political establishment are failing to represent the patriotic and brave grands, mums, and daughters of the country as far-right thugs. As one outspoken viewer wrote to me over the weekend, well done for keeping up and covering the situation here in Epping. I never in my life thought I would see this kind of thing on our quiet and leafy streets. The government is going to have to take notice. Oh God, I hope you're right. But I have to say, all of that lot are doing their utmost to play the far-right thug game that they now use with gay abandon to shut down any legitimate discussion about our children being put under the constant threat of sex assault by illegal migrants. Like shamed ex-Labour MP Diane Abbott, who wrote today, "The far-right and fascists are on the march again, threatening serious violence directed at asylum seekers. All of the politicians who have demonised vulnerable people trying to exercise their lawful right to seek asylum bear responsibility for this." Or Narinder Kaur, who was wheeled out by Jeremy Vine to avoid talking about the real issue.
Britain's first in there. They're far-right activists. I don't care what anyone says. This is far-right. They say they claim to care about women and children. If they cared about women and children, they'd be writing every time a woman was raped or murdered in this country, which is sadly a lot. The fact is, look at how they're behaving towards the police. And I think what they did yesterday was trying to do damage limitation. It's the mums and the children.
Well,
that
they
out.
said it was picnicking. That
Yes,
was all it was.
and the fact is that, well, they weren't. They've made several arrests last night. And the fact is, the man has been charged. He's been dealt with. So if this man, asylum seeker, for whatever he's done, he's denied it, he's been charged, he's been a magistrate's court. Why are you writing if the police have dealt with it? Why?
It reminded me of...
Oh, maybe because, Narinder, this is just going to keep happening again and again and again. Leo Kearse was right to point out legacy media on the Epping protest is laughable. Now, I have no idea about the alleged sexual assault case involving Hadush Gurbasali Kibatu, who appeared at Chelmsford Magistrates Court earlier in the day. I don't know the details or the outcome, neither do these protesters. But what I do know is that their behaviour helps no one, least of all the alleged victim. The left is an Aztec-style child sacrifice cult, Leo Kearse said. And it's despicable that the MSM is rewriting the narrative around what's happening in Essex to bury the real story being the systematic rape of our women by illegal migrants who we are paying to stay in luxury hotels. And by the way, this is a fact. Okay, Diane Abbott and Narinder Kaur. I mean, for example, Toby Young crunched some of the numbers. Over 300 asylum seekers housed in hotels across Britain have been charged with 708 alleged offences in 3 years, including rape, theft and violence. It is sick. The locals have finally had enough. I knew Essex would be first, but there are hundreds of other communities across our United Kingdom on the brink because of the damage being done. Now, of course, in any street movement, there are some ne'er-do-wells. But in Essex, they have largely been the hard left Antifa agitators who were sent to stir trouble. Because the locals on the street are like you and are like me. Like the ex-governor of Epping St John's School.
Went to Epping St John's School and I was parent governor for 4 years. Epping is a wonderful place. The families of the children that attend Epping School are wonderful, and we're here to support the family and we're here to support our town. What's happening, how we're being portrayed is not correct, and we're here to make a difference. A strong message from strong women.
So what's the placard that you have here?
We felt a lot of the press were incorrectly reporting us on Friday morning after our protest on Thursday. And so we just wanted to make it really clear that we're strong women, we're mums, we're sisters, we're aunties, we're parents of the area. So we're just here to support.
Yeah, the people here have been walking at the front have been mostly women and girls doing the march. Do you think that's because the people feel that a lot of the people in the hotel are a threat to women and girls?
Everybody is really concerned.
That's it, concern. Essex MP James McMurdoch summed up the message saying, "I'm not far right, I'm worried about my kids. Could this woman's message be any clearer or any fairer?" I actually found the scenes in Epping over the weekend deeply moving. I think it's the start of a peaceful fight back that the establishment simply does not know how to deal with.
I'm going to join the fight to walk on.
Try and keep it as...
Just get the sign.
What do you think of what's going on?
All generations there. Local Reform councillor Jamie McIver described it this way, 2 words, peaceful protest. And Restore Britain boss Rupert Lowe added, people in Epping and elsewhere have every right to hold serious concerns about unvetted foreign men being placed into their communities. The hotel in Epping should be closed along with every other in the country, and the occupants should be sent back where they came from. My friend Adam Brooks continued his excellent on-the-ground reporting.
I know, I've been told, people are saying there's more on the way. There is literally 1,000 people. It goes all the way up the road. Maybe 1,500 people here today. A lot of women and children. The peaceful people of Epping have come out and spoke. I just hope it stays that way late into the night. For the safety of local residents and the people in there, this has to close immediately. A lot of these protesters are telling me they're going to be here every week.
But of course, what we cannot deny is that in part because of what's gone on in Essex, but also what's gone on for many years, the trust in the police is breaking down. Now, I want to show you some drone footage of the scene outside the Bell Hotel, which shows you just how insane this situation has become. Essex shouldn't be subjected to this. No neighbourhood should be subjected to this. But what do you do when your young girls and your young women continue to be assaulted while staying by illegal migrants who are staying at these local hotels? Eventually, something is going to have to give, and that is why we are seeing these extraordinary scenes. And a reminder, of course, because it is important, even though we have to be careful with the contempt of court laws, that the final straw for Epping was Habush Gerbasali Kabuto, this man being charged with 3 counts of sexual assault just 8 days after he arrived illegally on a small boat. Amongst his alleged crimes, the Ethiopian is said to have asked a schoolgirl aged 14 if she wanted to make Jamaican babies just before the sex attack. But after the way Antifa hard-left activists were given kid-glove treatment by the Essex police, there has been this continued breakdown in trust, as pointed out in these brilliant interviews by the independent journalist Emma Dunwell of E Speaks Freely.
I don't know. But I'm just going to tell you, it's very unfortunate what happened on Thursday. Violence did erupt, and that was because it was peaceful here.
Was that CM16 people or...
No, because people from the train station, who are so-called anti-racism group, have come up here to antagonize us. And the police brought...
West Ham and Millwall together, Chelsea and Arsenal together, Arsenal and Spurs together, but you chose to bring them here. And then it kicked off, mate. And then it kicked off because you know full well you caused the problem. That night, you caused the problem.
Even if it was like BLM or Palestine, like you'd never give this.
You would never bring them together, mate, would you? But you did. This is the problem. As an intelligent man, you wouldn't mix two things. You wouldn't mix oil with water, would you? You wouldn't mix oil with water, but you did.
Now, immediately as that interview ended, trouble did erupt as a patriot was seemingly arrested for nothing.
Stay there, stay there, stay there. Yeah, fine, stay there.
That was dealt with yesterday. That was dealt with yesterday.
Stay there.
Yeah, step back from me then. Step back from me then.
Don't stop from the climate
What did he do?
I don't know. No. Hold on for a second.
He was just stood there. He was just stood there.
You're nicking him again.
Listen, why talk compliant? He literally was yesterday. And none of you have done your search.
Work the other day.
Police yesterday. What it's called yesterday. Cool, do your research then. Why is it coming like fucking bombs in China?
You did! Mate, you didn't. You did not, mate. Listen, you did not.
Yeah, what fucking safe was it?
No calls for that. That was over.
Listen, I can film.
The protesters also had no time for legacy media journalists.
Get him away! Officer, can we have him out of here, please? No, let go. No, it's all right.
Now, personally, I'd take a different approach there because I would think, actually, no, turn your cameras on the MSM. Ask them to justify why they continue to report so dishonestly on situations like this and why they are not challenging the police on their two-tier actions. Now, politically, only the UKIP leader Nick Tenkoni was on the scene last night, urging peaceful protest in order not to give the MSM exactly what they desire.
Because of your effort, because of your work, other constituencies will see this. You will motivate them. But our political ideology is conservatism. Violence plays no part in what we do. The moment it turns violent is the moment you give the establishment what they need to shut us down.
Yes, well said. Well said.
Testosterone must be bridled. Passion must be bridled. And you must stand outside this hotel every single week and send a message to the government. I say, send them home! 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 Send them home!
And last night, Tommy Robinson pledged to join the movement in Epping this Sunday after this video from a supporter.
Visit to this place.
I would too. I hope he does, because I think that will make it even more bigger.
So come here, look into that, talk to Tommy, tell him you want to see him coming down here.
Yeah, Tommy, I think you should definitely come down because you'll help out the situation so much more. We all want you to come down, and because you've got our backs more than our government has, so I think you should come down, and it will make a big difference, 100%. Hear, hear. I agree.
See, now Mummy's showing her face.
Now, literally, after having seen that video, Tommy posted on X last night, "Hear you loud and clear. I'm coming to Epping next Sunday, ladies, and bringing thousands more with me." Before adding, "What's bits? They close the hotel by next Sunday." But in the past few hours, he appears to have had a change of heart, backing the local movement which has been so effective thus far.
Whilst I think more people will go if we were going on Sunday, I think they're winning, currently winning. There's two options. Flood the place with outside people, maybe give the media and the politicians a reason to clamp down and go against it, or leave it to the locals who are galvanising their community and actually setting an example to the rest of the country. That's my current thought process. So I don't know if it benefits me to be, I don't know if it benefits the local people of Epping and what they're trying to do for me to be there on Sunday. That's my current thought process.
Now, Nigel Farage was also asked to weigh in on the Essex unrest today as he unveiled a new plan which he says will make Reform UK the toughest party on law and order in British history. While he did condemn the so-called far-right thugs, as he always does, Nigel rightly raised the presence of Antifa and concurred with me that the vast majority of feeling is heartfelt from Essex locals terrified about their community being torn apart.
On Epping, I don't think anybody in London even understands just how close we are to civil disobedience on a vast scale in this country, and I regret saying that. Of course, there were some bad eggs that turned up at Epping. There were the usual far-right thugs. But equally, what about Antifa? Why are Antifa allowed to go to these demonstrations, to wear balaclavas, to not be identified, to do gestures last night of them shooting at members of the public? Why are Antifa allowed to turn up outside a meeting I do in Cornwall 3 months ago, to assault members of the public coming to a democratic meeting? So, you know, it isn't all far-right thuggery, as you might sometimes hear from our Prime Minister. But do I understand how people in Epping feel? You bet your life I do. You bet your life I do. You know, I'm sitting on my table with two mothers. You know, I mean, 14-year-old girl is sexually assaulted by an Eritrean who'd arrived by boat 8 days before. Don't underestimate the simmering anger and disgust that there is in this country that we are letting in every week. In fact, some days, many hundreds of undocumented young males, many of whom come from cultures in which women and young girls are not even treated as second-class citizens. So the answer is yes, I do understand the genuine upset and anger. And I'll bet you that most of the people outside that hotel in Epping weren't far right or far left or anything like that. They were just genuinely concerned families.
And there are questions that the police must now answer about their misconduct over the past few days. Reform's McIver has now written to the Chief Constable of Essex asking for an urgent upgrade to operational policing in order to restore faith in the local community, because the police have a duty to protect peaceful protest. But he also asked some key questions of the police, like, why were counter-protesters escorted by officers towards women and children peacefully protesting at the Bell Hotel? Why were police vehicles used to ferry counter-protesters at the expense of taxpayers? Why were the left-wing mob of counter-protesters from and have the organisers been spoken to by the police? Who made the operational policing decision to engage the Met Police with a sensitive community matter, knowing they have a horrendous reputation and record? Why were alternative forces not engaged? So these are all incredibly important questions. Why were the police vans driving at speed up and down Epping High Street continuously causing a scene? What preventative work has been done, and what is the long-term plan? That is a concern that was shared by Peter Bleskley with Alex Phillips.
Yet another aspect of this story which may be raising tempers. It would appear, I haven't had it confirmed, but it would appear that yesterday some police vans were filled with counter-protesters.
Oh,
you
yeah,
know,
I know.
the Antifa mob, and they were ferried, possibly awaiting confirmation, from the local railway station to the protest in police vans. Now, if that has happened, that is utterly unforgivable, completely unforgivable, and would be in a clear breach of a High Court ruling that was handed down this week with regards to police impartiality.
An independent journalist, Lewis Brackpool, is now investigating the possible coordination and facilitation of far-left counter-protesters by police and local authorities during the 17th of July protest. He says video evidence captured by various citizen journalists shows counter-protesters arriving and departing in police vans, with one officer referring to the vans as the buses. The individuals involved appeared to be affiliated with activist groups such as Stand Up to Racism and similar far-left networks. Their movement in and out of the protest site was managed separately from the main demonstrators. So to discuss further the police cover-up around Epping's Bell Hotel, I'm joined now by the aforementioned Alex Phillips and Lewis Brackpool. So, Alex, it really does feel like the police have serious questions to answer here.
Yeah, it's interesting because Essex police actually put out a statement over the weekend condemning those who had infiltrated the protests and saying that they had been trying to whip up a frenzy where otherwise people had a right to express their views and their concerns locally, and also countered this suggestion that they were being used to ferry these protesters in and out of the protest area. So I hadn't myself seen firsthand any of the video footage, but when someone like Peter Blexley, himself an ex-Met police detective, who is an absolute curmudgeon for the facts and getting things right, says to me live on national radio, no, this has happened, you have to assume that this did happen. And later on in the programme, we were reflecting on how a very similar thing appeared to happen in the post-Southport protests, which then became riots. I remember a number of days of protests happening, people standing with placards or doing a march through the centre of Southport. And then all of a sudden, other elements seemed to get involved who wanted to throw projectiles or create missiles to aim at the police, who had balaclavas on, who seemed to be very professional, very active in their form of protest, not like ordinary citizens. And then all of a sudden it ramped up to such a level that it was then able to be forcefully shut down. And so I do have very serious concerns. They're not necessarily grounded in any evidence I have that this is taking place, but I do have some very serious concerns that there could be a move at play to try and make sure that these protests stop by ensuring that they escalate in order that they can then be shut down.
Lewis Brackpool, what have you discovered? Oh, just unmute yourself, Lewis.
Forgive me. Sorry, thank you very much for having me on, by the way. So at the minute it's ongoing, this investigation. I kind of leapt into action after seeing some of the evidence that has been posted online by citizen journalists who had been live streaming for 7 to 8 hours a day being there. And after some people were reposting footage online, there was one particular one of a guy filming a load of people that... filming a load of people getting inside vans, and one of the police officers sort of ushering them in and saying and calling them buses, which was particularly bizarre. The individuals involved appeared to be affiliates with activist groups such as Stand Up to Racism and similar far-left networks. Their movement in and out of the protest site was, or seems to be, managed separately from the main demonstrators, of course, where obviously it's just local people, most of the people there. And the idea of this investigation is just to determine whether there was a pre-arranged coordination, any logistical support, or even funding as well from either local councils, third-party groups, and of course the police. So I've submitted various FOI requests and tried to get in touch with the councillor of the area as well. Firstly, Essex Police requesting any operational orders, any internal emails or gold, silver, bronze command notes related to the policing of the protest and counter-protest activity between that time. And Essex County Council as well, seeking information on any involvement in transport, public safety coordination, or funding connected to the protest event, particularly the counter-protesters. And Epping Forest District Council requesting internal emails, correspondence with police, any permit applications, or any discussions regarding the presence or transport or stewarding of counter-protesters. So it's at the minute ongoing. I have had acknowledgements that they are processing the requests. Essex Police hasn't been very helpful. They just keep referring me to statements that they've made, which is not good enough. So I'm trying to press that.
Exactly.
So hopefully,
because we've got to get to the bottom of these questions. Lewis, do you think Tommy Robinson is right not to go, which is what he seems to be leaning towards? Because obviously he announced last night that he would be there, and there's been a lot of pushback from a lot of people saying, look, no, the strong, powerful thing about this movement is that it's being driven by the locals, and the locals have this in hand. Don't give them another reason to arrest you either.
Yeah, I think he's made a good call to pull out and not actually go. I know he's obviously a bit to and fro about that at the minute, but I think he's made a good call personally. I think the local people of the area seem to have it completely under control, and they're obviously peacefully protesting. And yeah, I think he's made a good judgment.
I mean, he hasn't said it's 100% yet, has he? But I mean, it seems to be heading that way. Of course, there are questions too about how widespread these protests might become. Should point this out to you, it wasn't just Essex this weekend. This post is well done to the local residents of Rushmore Aldershot who gave up their Sunday to fight to save their community and called an emergency demonstration outside the Potters Hotel. Guess what? No lefties, no trouble. And we've got some footage of that too. Alex, could you see this becoming a national movement?
Yeah, I think this is likely to now happen around the country, which is probably why there are going to be very deep, grave concerns among the establishments about how they can contain this, how they can put it back in a bottle, which is their only focus, quite frankly. They seem to only wish to try and stop the outpouring of emotion and concern in response to what is being done to our communities, rather than actually stop the problem itself. And I think, echoing what's been said about Tommy Robinson, it is right he doesn't go there, because this would essentially put a massive, rocket booster underneath it. You would end up with thousands of counter-protesters as well, street clashes. It would escalate to the point that then a heavy-handedness could be used. What's going on at the moment is local residents are making their voices heard. It's starting to get pick up. I think these will be copied around the country, and it is the people sending the government a very clear message, because they're not being listened to at the ballot box. They're not being listened to. Their concerns are not being addressed. Actually, there's something that I was sent earlier on today, which is from a private housing company who are looking for private residential properties to be used as houses of multiple occupancy around the country. And they have this chart which has a traffic light system. Red light means that particular place will not accept any more residences because it is full, or it said it's not going to do that. An amber light is we still want a few properties here, and a green light is we are actively looking for private properties to be used as houses of multiple occupancy for migrants who are being moved out of hotels. And you would never guess which place appeared on the green light list: Epping Forest. And so what you can see happening now is the governments are going to move people out of these hotels and actually put them in houses in the very streets where these residents live. You couldn't make it up.
This is Operation Scatter, right? Operation Scatter. Let's get them out of hotels and we'll just put them in houses all over the country, and then you won't necessarily know about it. But we're not that stupid, although I guess while there are these hotels in action, I would argue that it's still sensible to focus on them. But as Alex points out, the solution, unfortunately, might just mean that these people end up in houses throughout your community, which is obviously absolutely chilling. Is it any wonder that we cannot trust our police forces when they are now involved in the cancellation of perfectly legal comedy events, including those hosted by Katie Hopkins? That's exactly what has happened in Rugby over the weekend when her hit show, and remember this is part of the batshit bonkers Britain tour, which has been sold out up and down the country and had tens of thousands of people attend with no trouble whatsoever, was cancelled at the last minute by the Rugby Council with threats from the police. Now, here is how Katie explained exactly how the show ended up being pulled.
But we performed there in 2024, fully sold out. We all had a lovely time, the audience had a lovely time, and the ladies that run the Ben Hall are lovely ladies and really happy with the show. So we've been sold out for 4 months. 4 days ago, we had a phone call from a guy called Tom Kittendorf, who's the Chief of Wellbeing and Leisure at Rugby Council, paid over £70,000 a year, plus 20% pension contributions from you, the taxpayer, to say that our booking was cancelled, that there had been some protesters saying that they might show up. There'd been a petition which has just been hastily put together by people who never planning to attend the event and certainly didn't want to buy a ticket, which is absolutely their prerogative, and that our booking was no more. He even added that they would be doing us the favour of returning the money that we'd invested in securing that booking. The CEO of Rugby Council is a guy called Dan Green. I've called the council on multiple occasions now. He will not return my calls. He will not engage in conversation with me.
Now, Katie is very clear that she believes that this decision to cancel her show was politically motivated.
I believe it's politically motivated. It means the police are willingly going along with a politically motivated attack on me. And I would like you to look me in the eye so I can ask you these questions.
And after pledging that the show will go on regardless, Katie was then told that she would be locked out of the venue.
And I was told, Katie, the doors will be locked against you, which I think is very much just sort of encapsulates exactly how I feel. The doors are being locked against me, but I will be there. So if you are a ticket holder and you live in the area and you're available and you want to come and grab a hug, I'll be there and get a selfie if you want. If you just happen to be passing by and you see me in a sparkly outfit, do feel free to come and give me a hug or take a picture or do whatever you want. But I will be there.
And of course, cancelling a show like that has real personal consequences financially too.
This leaves us with 480 paid ticket holders who have all organised hotels or restaurant bookings or childminding bookings or have train fares that are paid for. Usually these are non-refundable. Hotels typically are non-refundable. People investing a whole bunch. There's a whole bunch of time, effort and energy. And a lot of people, you know, I've seen the messages, they're for people's tickets for someone's mum. And they were given them last October. And they've been looking forward to this for months. They've got their plan where they're going for dinner first, where they're going to get their drinks, what they're going to wear. And all of those brilliant people now don't have a venue. And if I can convey to you, sometimes people say, oh, it's all right for you, you know, you're in it, you're selling all these tickets. That is the tiniest bit of this tour is ticket sales. The absolute everything of this tour is how it is to have our people in a room laughing, feeling better and having hope.
And indeed, Katie, who has quite a way of words, says that she would rather have her arms dislocated than her venue being taken from her audience.
I promise you, I've been through a fair few things. I would rather someone come and just double dislocate my arms than I would this happen to my audience. I would happily let Dan Green and Tom Kittendorf come, and Chief Inspector Eagles, come and dislocate my arms, but don't take away my venue from my audience, because I love them. And I'm not saying that those boys would have actually the muscular ability to dislocate anyone's arms looking at them, but that's not the point. The point is, for no reason, a venue's been cancelled, and I just want to make it very clear that I have worked with other people tirelessly to try and find a substitute venue, and we haven't been able to do that at 4 days' notice, but I can tell you for certain that I refuse to be cancelled. I refuse to be cancelled. I refuse for my audience to be let down.
And this was a new approach from Katie, actually, and I love it. I love it. It's the David Starkey approach. It's an approach that I now try to take, right? Like, you can't cancel me. You can try, but you can't. So what Katie did is told the 430 ticket holders, look, we're going to arrange another venue for you at another date, but I'm still going to be there. I'm still going to be there on Saturday night. And by the way, even if you don't have a ticket, come on down. And it went well. She posted on X afterwards, thank you, Rugby. What a lovely night at the Ben Hall. Really proud to call you all my family. And I spoke to actually one of my friends went down. He said there were so many people there. And actually, there was a brilliant video. There was a brilliant video where Katie and a couple of her audience expressed their feelings towards the council.
Come on, Troubles. Right, now we're going to do a rude one. Ready?
That's it.
Fuck the council!
To my superstar panel, Lewis, Brackpool, Alex, Phillips. Alex, look, I think this is a new approach from Katie, but I love it. There was no trouble, right? So the police were warning, oh, this could turn into civil disobedience. There was no trouble. Everyone knew she was going to be there. And don't you think the fact that she did go and that there was no trouble proves that the reason for cancelling the show was totally politically motivated, because there was no trouble, even though she was outside the venue. There were no counter-protests. There was no trouble from her people. It's a joke.
Yeah, it's become so normalised, hasn't it? If someone's going to be expressing a viewpoint or an opinion or represents an opinion or a viewpoint which is considered to be dangerous because it isn't all pro-multiculturalism, it's actually sort of looking sceptically about what's happening to our country and raising views, even if it's doing it for a laugh. It's become very normalised, hasn't it? That these things are sort of shut down for reasons of safety. And I think she has taken the right approach here, because what's important is that we don't rise to the bait. We do say, look, this is a free country. If I want to go somewhere, if I want to speak to someone, I will do so. But I'm going to stand tall with my shoulders up and not actually fight, but do things peacefully and try to be the bigger and the better person. Be calm, be collected, and just, don't provoke them, because like I said, this has become so normalised now for everyone to be shut down who's trying to express dismay at our current situation in this country. In the same regard that it's a good thing that Tommy Robinson isn't going to Epping Forest. I think that the way Katie handled this situation was very sensible as well. It sort of tried to have a bit of fun, but without causing too much trouble. And I think it's a lesson that we must all learn as we try and push back against the powers that be, to stay calm, stay collected, be the bigger person, show what being British and what upholding British values really means, not just in words, but in deed.
Lewis, Brackpool?
Yeah, I think many people across the country that for some weird reason still hate Katie. She lives rent-free in their heads and has done for many years now. I need to now investigate this particular council department. I've never heard of such a ridiculous department within, politics. But yeah, I agree with Alex completely. This is the best way to do it. Have your fans turn up peacefully and just to make your voices heard. And I think I've been to one of Katie's shows before as a journalist, just to check it out and have a little look. And she does, as she says, adores her audience, and she makes a lot of time to actually go and speak to them and to interact with them. And it's not a quick hello, goodbye. It's actually a lot of time and patience. And of course, answering and asking lots of questions that a lot of people feel very disenfranchised with. So for her to do a comedy tour just to make people laugh, and the actual government is getting involved, or local government is getting involved, screams tyranny to me.
Yeah, and it is interesting, isn't it, Alex, the point that Lewis makes, like the hatred that people have for Katie Hopkins. I think where she has been incredibly sensible in her use of this new alternative media is that everything Katie does is with a smile on her face and with joy in her heart. And it is the total opposite of how she has been presented in the mainstream media, which is as a monster, you know, as some sort of Hitler-like figure. And actually these days what she talks about is unity and bringing everyone together and having a laugh. And I do think she is changing perceptions, because increasingly people are not lazy enough to just rely on a mainstream media interpretation of someone.
Yeah, I mean, look, this is happening to all sorts of characters, isn't it? Tommy Robinson's another prime example that his appeal is broader now than it ever has been. And he's taking a more sensible and diplomatic approach to the way he goes about things, because he realizes that that's what we need to do. You know, it is someone like Katie Hopkins' appeal. People say, oh, well, she said this, she deserves to be cancelled, she did that. What they don't understand is the Overton window's now shifted. It was actually the powers that be, the establishment voices, who made the bed and made her lie in it. She didn't do that to herself. And in many respects, that's what they did to Tommy Robinson. They decided what he was saying about what was going on in our streets was beyond the pale. You can't say that. You're a racist. You're a monster. Therefore, you're not allowed to do X, Y, and Z. So you push people into a corner where they're going to have to fight back, where they're going to have to try and make their own way in life via different means, because they have been cancelled. And then they get accused for being the ones who cancelled themselves, where they didn't. It was the establishment powers. But everything is changing. Everything is shifting. And a lot of characters now are beginning to be regarded in a different light. Even Nigel Farage, for crying out loud. We can see a huge political revolution and a cultural revolution beginning to take hold in Britain.
Yeah, I mean, Lewis, it's almost like this idea of there's a difference, I think, between the mainstream now, what is mainstream, and the mainstream media, right? Because I absolutely abhor the mainstream media. I spent all of those years in it, but I could never, ever imagine wanting to go back. And I'm sure Katie Hopkins would say exactly the same thing. However, do I think she is now back in the mainstream? Absolutely. Because it doesn't matter if you're not on these horrible shows, right? She'll never be on ITV's This Morning again, but it doesn't matter.
Absolutely. And people are turning off from the TV. People are more interested in big platforms such as X and social media to either get their news or just to, you know, have a flick around and see some entertainment as well. You know, content and the way content is presented is totally changed. This is why institutions like the BBC are clinging on for dear life on that license fee to keep everyone in check. Whereas people are sick and tired of regulation. People are sick and tired of bodies such as Ofcom or the Off-Communists like we talk about. And, you know, things are changing. Like Alex said, it's about the Overton window really, really shifting. So lots of characters that were demonized by the establishment and told that they were this awful, monstrous figures are actually turning around and saying, well, this is the real them that they can openly express on all these different social media platforms. And so it is an interesting time that we're living in, and it is accelerating. And I'm quite excited as someone that's part of the alternative media scene, I guess, as an independent, watching things unfold and being able to, you know, express yourself a bit more on these social media platforms without being banned. It's just now that we're all thinking about the law, the police, and how they are completely overarching and overreaching upon not just events, but everything that you're saying, which is, once again, very dystopian.
Could Tommy Robinson finally be about to enter the political realm, something for so many years he has insisted will not happen? Let me talk you through this developing story from over the weekend. So this all started after Kathy Ginge, a woman I have huge respect for, she is the editor of Conservative Woman, withdrew her previous support for Reform UK and posted on X, cards on table, I have joined the Restore Britain movement and Advance UK. From being an enthusiastic supporter of Farage and reform, I have very sadly lost confidence in them over the last year. To lose one of your ableist members in Ben Habib might be construed as careless. To repeat, this was unforgivable and stupid. Watching reform in the run-up to the May council elections deselect candidates who stood for the very things I believed in was dismaying. Now that prompted a surprise announcement from Tommy Robinson, who wrote, "I think I'll join both." Many of those that left reform because of his lies and attitude towards me have joined Advance UK. And of course, in case you're struggling to keep up, you can be a member of both Advance UK and Restore Britain, because Restore Britain, which is Rupert Lowe's organisation, is a movement. It is not a political party. He has said that in the future, maybe it could become one, or maybe it could take over a political party. But for the moment, it is a movement, which is why you've seen people like Susan Hall from the Conservatives join. Ben Habib's movement, Advance UK, will in time be a political party, he says, if it reaches the 30,000 member threshold, at which point he will donate £100,000 of his own money. To my superstar panel, Alex Phillips and Lewis Brackpool. Now, Lewis, this is fascinating because I guess one of the ways that Ben Habib's movement might get to that 30,000 number is if Tommy Robinson supporters join in force. And I would say in the early days, being completely honest, Restore Britain has had much more of the momentum, certainly more high profile people joining, you know, David Starkey and Susan Hall, people like that. But it's also felt like an easier proposition because I think so many people, including me, are so disillusioned with party politics. But what we have seen with Advance UK is big Tommy Robinson people, you know, Paul Thorpe, Liam Tufts, Howard Cox, say, no, we need a party too, and row behind Ben Habib. So do you think this will make a big difference for Advance UK if Tommy Robinson does indeed join as a member?
I think it will certainly make a massive difference in my view, considering, you know, Ben has just literally started this particular party and is still rallying support, because a lot of people feel as if there are too many parties in the fray at the minute. So maybe that this galvanization could, of course, rocket boost this just a little bit further. You know, I don't know Ben personally. I've not spoken to Ben, but, you know, good luck to him. You know, it must be quite difficult considering, you know, everyone feels disillusioned at the minute. People want an answer. People want a way in which their voices can be heard. That's why when Restore was created, and it wasn't a political party, and I know Charlie Downs personally, who's a very good friend of mine, and Harrison Pitt as well, who's recently joined, who's also a very good friend. I know those men very, very well, and I know what they want to push, and I know that they're good-hearted individuals that really want to spearhead really, really good change. Not to say that, of course, Ben Habib doesn't. I'm sure absolutely he does. But because of that personal connection, that's a little bit of an edge for me, and the galvanization between so many people around Rupert, because he has proved himself in Parliament to show that he is a grafter. He does put his money where his mouth is, and he gets on with it. And I think people galvanize around that kind of, we want to see actions rather than words. So, you know, it's very early to say, but yes, it will rocket boost to that. So we'll see what happens at this current stage.
Do you think it's sensible for Tommy to enter the political realm? Because up until this point, he has always been very clear with me that he views uniting the kingdom as a cultural movement, not a political one. And I have to be honest, I sort of liked that. I sort of thought it's a bit like, look, not everyone has to want to be a politician, right? You can do so much in terms of moving the Overton window outside of politics. I have absolutely no desire personally to join a political party, to ever be a politician. It's just not what I do. But I definitely think what we will do in the independent movement will, and I think it is already making a huge difference on Reform UK policies, for example. And I think that will continue up until the election. Like, is it even wise for Tommy to go down the path of joining a political party, or does he have much more power sitting outside that, being the head of a cultural movement? Because I think what we're going to see on September the 13th with the Uniting the Kingdom Free Speech rally is massive. You know, he's bringing people together like Jordan Peterson, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's wise for Tommy, really. And look, he's his own man. He can do whatever he likes. It's his game that he wants to do. So it's completely up to him what he decides to do. But I think him heading more of a cultural movement is probably better in his sort of realm. However, that doesn't discount people who do want to get into, let's say, localized politics as well, which I think is incredibly important. You know, there's that saying, you want good guys in power, really. You want good guys in power to make the change as well. It's not just from the outside. But whilst saying that, we all have a role to play. You know, you, me, Alex, everyone else, you know, we all have our own role to play about, you know, shifting the Overton window, shifting policy as well, you know, talking to people, networking, trying to see what's next. So everyone does have their own role to play. But specifically with Tommy, you know, I believe Tommy did try to get into politics. I believe he ran for a council, I believe, or an MP several years ago. And obviously the Overton window was a lot different then. But if you want my opinion, I think he's better doing what he does best, and that's his documentary work, his journalism. And I think it would benefit more if he encouraged people to get into local politics and to encourage people to stand and to galvanize in that area, as opposed to just you know, going to rallies as well, which are great morale boosters. But you want good guys to get in there and to make change. And I think that's kind of the role that I believe should be played. But it's totally up to people what they want to do.
Okay, then the other big fracture on the right has, of course, been involving Zia Yusuf. And there are a couple of big developments over the weekend. First, so he was now the head of Doge at Reform UK, previously chairman, but seemingly still very important behind the scenes. So firstly, Katie Hopkins made her own intervention over the weekend, asking Nigel Farage to remove Zia Yusuf from Reform UK. She posted, "Mohammed Zia Yusuf is an insult to your Reform Party membership. First, he calls your only female MP dumb. Now he joins an attack on a Jewish MP. Just what is it he has got on you, Nigel? This Mohammed has no place in a party for decent Brits." Now, Zia Yusuf, he was posting on X like unabated all weekend, not chastened at all. And someone had said the political establishment is terrified, and so they should be. And Maya Tusi responded saying Zia Yusuf is literally part of the political establishment himself. He's one of the most influential figures in Reform UK, the second largest party in Britain. He was a Tory up until a few months ago. Now, of course, this whole scandal erupted because on Friday, it emerged that he had liked this post on X in regards to Robert Jenrick. Reminder that Jenrick is a traitorous zogbot with a Jewish wife and family. I'm sure it's unrelated that he imported infinite brown savages to rape our women and children. Tommy Robinson had also weighed in, by the way, saying, WTF are you doing with this wrong'un, Nigel Farage? Yusuf eventually apologised, saying one of the team who posted my X account accidentally pressed like on an awful anti-Semitic tweet earlier today. I apologise for this. The post also refers to brown savages and is equally racist against me. Clearly it was not intentional. The amount of anti-Semitism and racism on this platform is spiralling out of control, and I hope that changes soon. Now, that may be accepted if it was a one-off mistake, I guess you would say, although the issue does seem to be that Zia Yusuf has history in terms of blaming staff members when something goes wrong on social media, because this BBC reporting during his time at Velocity Black, which was the concierge company he was the chairman of showed that he was sending inappropriate messages on, I think it was Instagram, to a female staff member because she'd blocked him on WhatsApp. And through lawyers, Yusuf said the accusation was false and that he had employed someone to manage his social media accounts during that period. Now, look, Alex Phillips, what sort of stuns me about this is just that whatever you think of Zia Yusuf, there seem to be totally different rules that apply to him. Okay, so I'll give you 2 examples of that. Firstly, Reform UK has been utterly brutal in terms of its social media and vetting policies, right? Like, you're just gone, even if you make a mistake. Then the mainstream media, Alex. So I watched the entire press conference today that Nigel Farage gave on Law and Order, and I think it was about 45 minutes long, and it was really robust, right? And that's where Nigel is absolutely at his peak performance. You know, he's taking questions all over from the Mirror, who's asking about Tommy Robinson, you know, like he's answering all the questions. So I'm not blaming Nigel for this, but not one mainstream media journalist, because it was only the mainstream media that was there, of course, no independent journalists invited, asked a question about this scandal. And it's like, why does there seem to be a totally different standard when it comes to Zia Yusuf, both within Reform, but also in the mainstream media too?
Yeah, I can't answer that, but to be honest, I don't know what the answer is for you, Dan. But what I would say is this: look, I know Zia, I've met Zia, and he's highly intelligent. He's a very, very intelligent man. I can't see why he would have liked that post deliberately. I'm just using Occam's razor here. You know, liking a post that is written so crudely with such disgusting language that talks about brown savages. Why would he like that post? I just can't see why he would do that intentionally. Go, yes, I totally agree with this, because I just can't see why he would. So I think with this one, I would want to give him the benefit of the doubt, and whether he clicked on it just on late at night, I don't know, or whether there are a team running his social media, I don't know. When we start getting down into the minutiae of posts that people have liked at some point in their life, I just find it quite sort of unbecoming. But when you read that, that's a really horrific couple of sentences, isn't it? I mean, that is not good at all. A normal human being does not like that post, even if they were to believe in the words that it says. Like I said, I cannot see Zia Yusuf agreeing with the terms brown savages, and I cannot see a man of his intelligence thinking it'd be a good idea to like that. So in this instance, I will give him the benefit of the doubt. Why the mainstream media didn't ask about it, your guess is as good as mine.
Lewis Brackpool, I mean, I guess just for folk who maybe don't understand exactly how it works now, X, which obviously used to be known as Twitter, changed its rules. So your likes are now confidential. But the problem here is that the person who posted that tweet, and I think we can all agree, it's pretty revolting, despicable, racist, anti-Semitic indeed, went public with the fact that Zia Yusuf had liked the post. So that's how this became public, because now your likes on X are actually a private thing. So I don't know if that provides any type of explanation as to maybe the fact that he thought that it could be secret, or do you take his word for it too, Lewis?
It's very difficult to say, isn't it? Because one person's going to say one thing and then the other's going to say the other. So it's one of those really difficult ones that you just don't really have an answer. Of course, this is the really difficult point to make. It could be that, you know, because he was on a tirade about Robert Jenrick in the context there. So it could have been that he was scrolling through and just clicking like on every single one that looked to be whatever. But still, that's no excuse. You know, I don't understand it. It's a very weird
I just hope, given he was the person that was in charge of these very, very stringent vetting policies where some really good people didn't pass the test, maybe this is a lesson to him. You know, give everyone a second chance on social media. Let's stop ruling people out being candidates or being members of Reform for posts that they made on X. That might be just a good lesson to take from this. But I do feel he definitely does get very, very different treatment. developing right now, utter outrage at Ian Dale, LBC's non-conservative conservative, who I think has actually been moving to the hard left now for a number of months. I find it astonishing, actually, that this guy is proudly trumpeted as the Labour Broadcasting Company's conservative, where he literally doesn't hold a conservative view anymore. And in fact, it's not that he just doesn't hold these views personally, it's that he holds his audience, who do have conservative views, in total disdain. And the fury was sparked, in particular, about a call in regards to the Afghan migrant cover-up scandal. And remember, this scandal is so bad. It is one of the biggest cover-ups in British history. It meant that the government, our government, in cahoots with the judiciary, ran a secret people smuggling operation, bringing tens of thousands of Afghans, including, according to Dominic Cummings, dangerous sexual predators into this country without us knowing about it, even though there was an election campaign going on. I mean, the whole thing is a disgrace. And there are also facts about Afghan migrants to this country. And those facts may be unpleasant, but they are facts. And one of those facts are that Afghan migrants are far more likely to commit sexual crimes when they enter the UK than any other group. Now, surely that matters. And so if I were to receive a phone call, and you know, I've worked for LBC and talk radio in the past, from someone who was expressing concern, not just about this type of government invasion, but also about the fact that actually these people could be putting my life or my family's lives at risk, I'll tell you one thing I wouldn't do. Call her a dinosaur and then hang up. So Ian Dale didn't just prove that he's completely out of touch with ordinary Brits, that he's now, I think, as hard left as James O'Brien, but he also proved that he's a rude, ageist bastard. Watch this.
These people come here, they don't turn into Englishmen, they bring their Afghan ways with them, and we're supposed to like it, and we don't. And what did our politicians do about that? Nothing. Tell us to suck it up with what we've got.
And when you say Afghans bring their ways with them and we don't want them, what do you mean by that?
No, we don't. Pardon?
What do you mean by that?
What I mean is that we don't want to live like they do.
Well,
Why should we?
How do you think they live? How do you know how they live?
Well, I've seen enough, haven't I? It's all on the television. Women subjected to imprisonment virtually, girls...
That's why they're coming here, to get away from that.
Well, why don't they sort their own country out? Why do they want
the
us
Taliban
to help
are in
them and then
charge.
turn on us?
Because the Taliban are in charge, that's why.
Pardon?
Because the Taliban are in charge.
Well, then they'll have to do something about it. If we had rotten governments here, which we have had from time to time, we have a democratic vote on it. If they don't, you can't force these people to do what they don't want to do, and it's nothing to do with that.
You're talking as if these people are coming over here and they're part of the Taliban themselves. The whole point of them coming here is that they were helping us fight against the Taliban.
All right, so that in the future generations, our grandchildren and great-grandchildren are going to be a minority in their own country because your generation wants to flood the country with people that are totally unassimilable to our way of life.
You're a complete dinosaur, I'm afraid. I mean, it's absolutely disgusting to say, oh, well, these people bring their ways here, and yet you can't actually articulate what they are. I don't want to hear any more of it, Liz. Thank you very much.
I mean, the only dinosaur when it comes to political views is Ian Dale. And just imagine if she had actually responded with the truth, which is that their ways include raping our women. He wouldn't like that, would he? Bev Turner posted on this. This is the problem. Some members of the liberal elite, for want of a better phrase, have no patience with people gallantly trying to articulate what is a legitimate grievance. Rows of shops depicting Arabic writing that they don't understand. Shisha bars where greasy spoon cafes once sat. Coffee shops with dozens of men sat outside all day playing cards, not being understood in a hospital or a taxi. More and more women covering their hair or face. It has to be okay to ask if we're at peace with such rapid, visible, tangible change that is not British culture. We need to find a language to communicate why these developments are so worrying to some people. If the pro-immigration host wants to change her mind, he should try harder. Insulting an elderly woman expressing concern about this cultural clash is not the solution. Basically saying you're just old is horrific. Where's the kindness to her? Rael Braverman added Ian Dale symbolises the risks of uber-liberal thinking. He really sounds like part of that condescending metropolitan elite. The caller might not be very articulate, sure, but her point was clear enough and he took advantage of how she struggled to express herself and then cuts her off. And from the New Culture Forum, Rafe Hadel Manku posted, Dale is a disingenuous dinosaur. As a percentage of the UK population, Afghans commit more sexual assault than any other nationality, and they're number 3 for violence. Compared to UK nationals, the conviction rate for Afghans is 22% higher for rape, 11% higher for drugs and robbery. 63% of Afghans are illiterate. 15 of the 20 areas most affected by the Southport riots were from areas with the highest levels of Afghan resettlement. Economically, Afghans are a net drain on the UK economy. Culturally and socially, they are completely incompatible with Western society. Britain's duty of care to Afghans who felt British forces does not oblige us to house them in the UK. They should be sent to a third country. We've already paid to build migrant housing and infrastructure in Rwanda. As we're not using those facilities for illegal migrants, we could send the Afghans there. Rwanda has a higher GDP per capita than Afghanistan, so it would still be an improvement for them. GDP in Afghanistan is £320, GDP in Rwanda is £746, GDP in the UK is £36,854. It is madness to import thousands into this country. Alex Phillips, you're a host who deals with these calls on a regular basis. What did you think of the way that Ian Dale called that woman a dinosaur and then hung up on her?
Yeah, I think it's very hurtful because, you know, when you're a radio show host and people are phoning up, you're the one who has to be articulate. You're the one who has to be able to express yourself and try and be precise with your language. But you understand you're speaking to ordinary men and women who don't have degrees in literature and philosophy from top universities or PPE, who haven't been trained as journalists, who are simply doing their best to try and express their concerns using the language that they have, their own vernacular, using their own voice. And I remember this during the referendum campaign, this sneering at the middle class. They're stupid, they're ignorant, they don't know what they voted for. They're so outmoded with their viewpoints because they're idiotic and they don't understand it. She knew exactly what she was trying to say. He knew what she was trying to say, which was talking about the fact that men might come over from Afghanistan. Maybe they even did serve alongside the British forces. It doesn't mean they're suddenly magically British. They probably still, even if they were on the right side of that fight, have attitudes which are not necessarily easily assimilated into Western cultural mores. And I'm able to say assimilated into Western cultural mores, fine, it slips off the tongue. That's what she was trying to do. I knew that's what she was trying to say. He knew that's what she was trying to say. And it's funny, you spend enough time in a particular environment and you become like it.
Yes.
He seems to have spent so much time around James O'Brien. He's morphing into him. But it's just, it's not kind. You know, if I had, sometimes, look, I do have callers every now and then on my show who might start going a little bit in a direction that I think, this is getting a little bit too spicy. Let's try and claw it back now. Let's not go down that particular route. And so I fill in the blanks for them sometimes. If they're saying, well, and I think they're struggling to articulate something, I'll say, well, look, I think what you're trying to say is when you have Islamists in this country who follow a particular version of the religion, because if all Muslims in the UK were, you know, extremists, there are millions of them, we would know by now, we'd have a big issue. And so I try and encourage them. Then they go, yes, of course, that's what I mean. Because people aren't necessarily, you know, doing live radio, live television, something like that is not a natural skill for a lot of people. It's very easy to accidentally put your foot in it. But I think we all know as human beings what someone's trying to articulate. We know if they're deliberately trying to use offensive language, or if they're just struggling to be able to pick their words to express themselves in a way that we can better understand. And more often than not, we all know innately what they're trying to do. And it is your job as the radio host to get that out of the person you're speaking to show them compassion, to show them sympathy, to give them a helping hand to express themselves. And then even if you don't agree with me, say, well, look, you know, that was their viewpoint. I think this. But to turn around and be rude and insulting like that and use pejorative language against an elderly British female, it's just really unbecoming. You know, if that is the best you can do as a radio host, Mr. Dale, you're not a very good one.
No. And Lewis, I think he's a scumbag, actually, because I'll tell you my little Ian Dale story. When GB News was launching, he was totally vile, consistently vile. I mean, right, everyone knows the launch of GB News was horrific, right? But he was posting constantly and consistently, seemingly to try and make some sort of point about how awful it was, and the fact that, you know, I guess he didn't want the competition. But actually, if he truly was someone who was a small c conservative, which he claims to be, as well as an actual conservative member of the Conservative Party, he would have wanted GB News to succeed. It would have been good for the broadcasting ecosystem in the UK. And obviously, now that GB News is very much part of the establishment and has moved to the centre ground, I was stunned to see Ian Dale appearing on GB News the other day, and I'm told that he is now begging the station for a job. Well, I really, really hope, Lewis, that they actually hold firm and say, no, we don't want your ilk, although knowing GB News now, they'll probably say, come on in, have a job. But I mean, there's something very much, I think, that Alex says that's true. He spent almost too much time around James O'Brien, and James O'Brien is now, love him or loathe him, and I'm sure you loathe him as much as I do, he is now the spiritual leader of LBC.
Absolutely. I'd never heard of this guy until a few years ago, I'll be honest, and all I've seen is just clips of him belittling not only people that I know that are doing the media rounds, but of course the general public. So I've not seen anything really positive. You know, the problem is with this whole Conservatives not having conservative values or anything, I think there's been a problem for quite some time now that there's too many liberals in the conservative space, and sometimes people just come in and just say that they are conservative and have these conservative values, but can't seem to prove it. Ian Dale is definitely one of them. But to watch him just belittle an elderly woman for trying to articulate herself is that's just gutter, really. I'm just so sick and tired of it. But there is a part of me that says, actually, keep going, keep doing that, because people are switching off from you, and your figures are going to just start to diminish so much that people are going to look elsewhere. And you know,
yeah. That's a good thing though, right, Alex? That's what we need. That's actually what we need. Just stop listening to LBC. They hate you. They hate you.
Tune in to me instead. We have so much more fun on my programme. I like to call it communal catharsis. We really get our teeth stuck into some gnarly issues, but we also have a laugh along the way.
And I was listening this morning, Alex. So are you in for Julia this week on Talk? Is that?
Yeah. And Monday to Thursday, I'm at a funeral on Friday, sadly, and I've inadvertently morphed into the weekend breakfast host. Now David Bull's gone back to reform, so busy times for me. But I'm really enjoying it. And like I said, you know, I always think that when it comes to individuals, I can make some pretty bold, sweeping comments and be very strident in my political viewpoints. I never say anything nasty about an individual. I really try not to. I'm not the sort of person to go on Twitter and quote tweet someone to the left, aren't they despicable? Rah, 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 rah. I just think it's really unbecoming to focus on an individual, playing the man, not the ball. I always try and stick to political issues. I might have had a jibe every now and then if someone really deserved it. But by and large, if you're the sort of person who attacks someone on an individual basis, there's something a bit wrong with you. You're not really that nice a person, are you? So I always try and keep it clean in that regard, but never let that sort of that more humanitarian approach to an individual person get in the way of being a badass bitch politically.
Alex Phillips, star of Talk at the moment, but of course also very importantly the author of the independent Substack That's What She Said, and the independent journalist Lewis Brackpool. Lewis, where can people follow your work?
You can find me on X, just under my name, Instagram, YouTube, and of course Substack, which is my name once again, Lewis Brackpool.
Amazing. So great to have you both here today. Thank you very, very much. And of course, we will reveal today's greatest Britain and Union jackass in just one moment. But first to your comments, obviously, on what's going on in Essex. Jack Lemon writes, the usual MSM establishment slur of far-right thugs is now beginning to sound desperate and pathetic. Fifi Butterfly said, you cannot just take people brought up with very different views of what is considered acceptable behaviour and just let them loose in a country where those values are completely opposed. And Andrew G, I loved this from Andrew G. I thought this was the comment of the day. If they put as much effort into protecting our shores as they are this hotel and its inmates, we wouldn't have a problem. Very well put. Okay, a reminder of today's Union Jackass nominees. First nominee, Kate Nash, nominated by Matt Cass 48 for performing at Brighton. She rejoices in her need for men to take over her spaces as she feels welcome and safe with men invading the worst sort of woman there currently is. The aforementioned Ian Dale, nominated by Darren Donaldson, patronising a woman who voiced very valid concerns of the Afghan migrants welcomed into the country via cover-up. And Daniel Perry, nominated by Karen Hankey, the £48,000 a year private school-educated moron who described himself as a queer dance artist that unfurled a Palestine flag at the Royal Opera House at the weekend. And your results are in. In third place, with 13% of the vote, Daniel Perry. The runner-up, with 15% of the vote, Kate Nash. But an overwhelming winner today, with 72% of your vote, Ian Dale is today's Union Jackass. And of course, that does mean he will be going head-to-head with the rest of the Union Jackasses at the end of the week to be named the worst Briton in the world this week. And today's greatest Briton is the women and children of Epping, nominated by Lottie Kane 66, who says standing up and showing that they will not be smeared as far right. Couldn't have put it better myself, Lottie. Brilliant nomination. Okay, we're moving to Substack now for the uncancelled after show with veteran royal authors Tom Bower and Robert Jobson revealing what's really going on with Prince Harry and Meghan Markle attempted reconciliation with the royal family. So at this stage, we come off YouTube and Rumble. We move to continue the conversation. That's what I'm trying to say. In the Outspoken After Show on Substack. So you can sign up at www.outspoken.live. But we will be back live with you here tomorrow at 5 p.m. UK time, midday Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific. If you're watching on YouTube or Rumble, please hit subscribe. And most importantly, I promise